As we all adjusted from the pandemic where everybody was working from home who possibly could, we've fallen into a situation where most people not only want but are demanding to have a hybrid working or remote working option as part of the job. This has been a huge shift in how we work and comes with some pretty significant challenges for a leader. So today I'll share some practical strategies in how to navigate the whole remote working as a leader. I'm Nikki, I've been in leadership for over 17 years and have worked my way into leading leaders with over 300 people in the team in multiple locations, which makes navigating remote leadership a very real challenge. Challenge number one is communication barriers. One of the biggest hurdles in remote leadership is how you communicate with your team. When you have teams in different locations who are either working from home, which could be a short drive to the office, or they're a plane ride away, having clear communication is essential. I have found that having scheduled regular one-to-one meetings with my team is really important. I would have a virtual meeting one-on-one with each of my direct reports. Then I would have scheduled virtual team meetings on 3 days out of the 5. So that would mean that 4 days out of 5 I am meeting with each of my team members, ensuring that we're all on the same page and overcoming any problems that could come up. I would also be having daily contact with each of my team members, whether that be through emails or a chat message or sometimes a quick phone call, just to ensure that I have connected with each person every day. Utilising tools such as Teams or Zoom is really important too. That allows you to have that video contact with somebody, which, while it's not the same as face-to-face, it is actually quite effective, and you can feel the energy from team members over virtual meetings, particularly if you know them quite well and you've been doing it for a long period of time. You start to understand the subtle cues that they may be putting in place that indicate that something else is going on for them. It could be that they're more quiet on meetings, or they're not contributing as much, or perhaps they're giving off a bit of an energy that you know means something else is going on. If I notice that in a meeting, I will often call that person after that meeting on their own and just check in and make sure that everything's going okay. I also ensure that all my team members know that they can contact me at any time. Even if I can't talk right at the moment, I will always make time and make sure that they are a priority if they need to. Challenge number 2 is team engagement and morale. Maintaining this in a remote team can be really tricky. Without the in-person connection, some people may feel disconnected from their team or isolated. As I do with my direct reports, I encourage my team members with their direct reports to do the same check-ins. So that would be that they have a regular one-to-one scheduled meeting virtually with their team members, and that they have daily team meeting check-ins at the start of each day. So that could be just a quick 15-minute, how is everybody, what are our main priorities for the day, and just getting a bit of a sense of how people are feeling and picking up on any of those subtle cues. I also encourage engagement activities. There are so many options for online games that you can play in just 5 minutes with your team. I really enjoy online Pictionary. It's always a bit of a laugh when you see what somebody's drawing and you're trying to guess what they're putting up on the screen. Taking time to do that, or just a virtual coffee catch-up meeting where you're just having casual conversation, is really important to gauge the feeling of the group and how people are getting on, and just to check in and make sure everybody is okay, which is what you would normally do if you were in person. I also find celebrating the wins is quite important too as a leader. So I encourage a Friday connection time where the team members would bring their wins and maybe the things that they've found the hardest for the week and talk about those, but also one thing that they really want to celebrate. So not just leader-led, congratulations, you achieved this, but those small things that team members notice about each other that they can then bring themselves and highlight for everybody else what somebody might have helped them out with. Challenge number 3 is monitoring productivity. Having to monitor progress and performance of team members is a really key concern of leaders. How do you know that they're working just as hard at home as they would do in the office if you can't see them? Firstly, I think that most people don't get up in the morning and think, How can I do the least amount of work today at work and still get paid? Well, I hope that's the case. But I like to lead from everybody is coming to work to do their best, unless they prove otherwise. What I think matters is, as a leader, whether or not you notice their best, or whether or not you notice them and the work that they are doing. If you thought that no one really noticed or cared how much input you had each day into the workplace, would you keep doing the maximum amount of effort every day? How long could you maintain the level of commitment that requires performing at your best every day if you thought nobody noticed? I suspect most would lose the motivation and could potentially drop off. I think what really helps is having really clear expectations of what you expect somebody to have achieved. If you have clearly outlined the time frame for which you expect something to be finished by, the milestones and goals of what you expect to be done when, and a clear explanation of what is actually needing to be done and the quality of that, if you are checking in regularly on progress and those milestones, you can easily pick up how performance is tracking for that individual. Whether they are at work or at home, they are then more likely to respond to that feedback and those check-ins by continuing to strive to meet those expectations. I think it also empowers the team members as they feel that they have your trust and confidence that they are going to achieve that without a micromanaging style where you're checking in on them every single day at every point. Obviously, some roles are a lot easier to track than others, and that is where you really need to have good systems in place so that you have the mechanism to track those roles that require that. And that should really be in place before you even consider remote or hybrid working. Remote working isn't even possible if you don't have the right systems and mechanisms in place to support your team to be able to work effectively from home or remotely. Challenge number 4 is technology glitches, our absolute favourite. This really flows from making sure that your team have the right tools and resources to do their job. Technical glitches can really disrupt the workflow, and there's nothing worse than being on a Zoom or Teams meeting where the audio or picture don't quite match up. I think there isn't really a way around this other than having a really good technical team or person in place to resolve those issues as they come up. I think you need technical support to ensure that any technical system issues that occurred can be resolved really promptly for the team. Training is another component to it where you're ensuring that your team is actually really well supported with resources and knowledge so that they can use the systems that are in place, and if there are technology errors or issues, they know exactly who they need to call or what they need to do to ensure that issue is logged and addressed as soon as possible. Contingency plans also need to be put in place to ensure that everybody understands what would happen if there was a network-wide technical glitch that occurred and you were in some critical function that really relied on that technology to do your work. I have worked in critical functions before where there are full plans in place and everybody knows what needs to happen when if something of that scale occurs. But for more straightforward organisations, I think you just have to have really clear systems and processes put in place so that everybody understands the expectations around what happens if my Wi-Fi drops out and I'm supposed to be working from home. Is the expectation that I have to go into the office, or do I take leave? Making sure that people all understand what those rules are and they are clearly explained to each team member is very important. This really builds into challenge number 5, which is maintaining company culture. Building a company culture becomes far more challenging when people are working remotely. You lose that daily connection that you would have if everybody was in the same site all the time. Having a team charter or a group commitment to how you want to work and how you want to engage, I think really helps build this. It starts with the little things, such as, does everybody understand how many days you are allowed to work remotely? Is there a standard in place? Is there an expectation that everybody connects in the office on the same day every week? I personally find that that's quite important. I like the idea of having 1 or 2 everybody on site connection days. Then you can make them quite purposeful and actually do things together as a team doing to keep that culture going and keep people feeling really connected to each other. I think it's also important to agree how often you're going to connect as a team, even if it is remotely. Are you going to have a daily connection virtually, or are you going to have a weekly catch-up? I think putting those things in place early is really important to keep that momentum going, and also so people know, okay, yep, on Wednesday we're going to do this exercise, which is part of our engagement activity. I think you can do this even in 15 minutes at the start of the day. Creating virtual opportunities to connect are really important, so you've got them scheduled each week, you know when they are, and everybody understands what the purpose of those are. Encouraging the team to actually help develop these themselves, so what their preferences are around how they engage together as a team, what activities they want to do, if there's any traditions that you've had in place when you were all on site, if that was something that you are migrating from, that you can still do virtually, or agree that you're actually going to continue to connect on those in the office. I do think that having daily or every second day contact with the team is really important if your team is remote, and continuing to build those engagement opportunities so that people feel heard and seen and connected to who it is that they're working with. It's not just about tracking performance or progress, it's also about checking in around people's health and their well-being, which is a lot harder to determine if you aren't face-to-face. As remote leaders, we face these challenges, but with the right strategies, we can turn these challenges into opportunities for growth. Remember, building effective remote leadership is about building connections and engagement, maintaining open communication, and fostering a positive work environment. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.